and welcome back to No Set Path. I hope you had an amazing Memorial Day weekend here in the States, full of good weather, good food, and good relaxation. I know I sure did. This week's guest is Eli Walker. Eli's the founder of the internationally acclaimed program Drunk Yoga, which is a social and interactive yoga experience. She's even published a book on the subject. Additionally, she's now a community engagement consultant, solo performer, and speaker. We talk about a lot of things in this episode, from scaling and potentially selling that business, to her moving out of New York City up to the Hudson Valley where I am. Also building an audience and how her being vulnerable and transparent with that audience has really helped boost her business and enhanced her experience as an entrepreneur. As always, if you like what you hear and you haven't yet, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're watching this on YouTube, a like or subscribe to the channel would really help boost us there as well. Eli's super fun to talk to. We've had a chance to hang out in person a couple of times, and I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. Here we go. You and I met briefly in person in Poughkeepsie at Good Time Film Studio, like at one of the events Derek was having. And then we've kind of kept up and I ran into you at an event up in Kingston. But what I find really interesting is that we're, two city expats that are now like living up in the Hudson Valley and, trying to continue to build and continue to grow and like keep our, creative endeavors going, for lack of a better term. I think a lot of folks feel like they need to be living in, like directly in like a big city, and in our case, New York. And, what's the experience been like for you being a creative professional in a multifaceted way, which you do a lot of things, but what's that been like being out of the city and, having a little space from that, understanding that I know you go back and work all the time as do I, but just kind of curious what that's been like over the last couple of years.
That's a really cool question. Yeah, it was a little stressful at first because when I moved to Beacon, it was like right before the pandemic started, like 2 days before lockdown began. And
oh yeah, that's right. It was, yeah. I remember you mentioned that to me.
Yeah, so It was very coincidental. And so it was before remote working was a thing. It was before everyone did everything on Zoom. And so I had every intention to continue to commute to New York City. I had just wanted a bit of a break from the hustle, and I wanted to be able to wake up to birds in the morning and just like see if at that point in my career and personal life, I was just, a little tired of working 24/7 in the hustle of New York City, and wanted to just see what it would be like leaving New York City. And then Beacon felt like a very low stakes move. Like it wasn't picking up and moving to Boulder or LA. It just felt like a quick sidestep. Let's just see how it feels not to be in the hustle bustle and see if I can keep up with my artistic endeavors and entrepreneurial projects without physically being there. And my company, Drunk Yoga, was at a place where I didn't have to be there because I had trained enough teachers at this point. And so I moved up here testing the waters. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in Beacon, and I had anticipated living a very much a commuter lifestyle because I wasn't sure. I thought I really did have to be in New York City to maintain those relationships. But then, of course, lockdown started, and all of a sudden, my company was virtual. The whole world was virtual. And until the vaccines were rolled out, it didn't make sense to go back to New York City at all. So I didn't go back for about a year. And I felt like I got off the hook a little bit for the first year because everything was up in the air. So I didn't quite have to make any decisions or process, what it felt like to be an artist, a New York City-based artist, and how much, I'm sure you can relate, how much that is like a part of your identity, your professional identity,
sure,
and not be in New York City. I also didn't know anyone in the Hudson Valley yet, really. So I hadn't yet found my people. I didn't have an experience of belonging here or proof of concept that you could be a New York City-based artist and entrepreneur and not live there. And I was very nervous about all these things. I was trying to find the answer and make a decision about whether or not I needed to move back in order to grow as an artist and entrepreneur. And the circumstances of the world, were such that it would be a while before I had that answer because I couldn't test the waters for a couple of years. So it wasn't just, I guess I say all of that because it was only recently, 2022, where I actually got a chance to figure out what that would be like, commuting to the city, doing projects, coming back, being able to plug into multifaceted artists here in the Hudson Valley, traveling for work. And, would it be easier, as a solo performance artist and a wellness entrepreneur to be in the city and amidst events that were going on, going to shows, being able to plug in more in every way? It would be easier if I was in the city. I could do more, probably grow faster. But the truth was I just wasn't happy. So for me, that alone makes it make more sense for me to be up closer to nature. And the good part is, just on a soul level, a lot of other artists from New York City, I think, felt the same. Because I'm not sure about you, but I've been meeting tons of really cool artists and entrepreneurs who were successful enough in their own right where they could have their companies and their projects in the city and live up here. So they did something right. And so I've been meeting a lot of really cool people up here in the last year, which has made that decision to stay in the Hudson Valley a lot easier. So it's a double-edged sword. I mean, there are times I got invited to the Moth tonight to go and on the Moth storytelling, right? I used to do that all the time. Someone, from the city has a free ticket and they offered it to me, and it's not practical for me to make the trip tonight. So I had to say no. Stuff like that blows because I would love to be able to just sort of, like I used to, just hop on my mic and go to the Moth. But the benefits of being up here and the space and the space and the clarity and the kindness of living and the humans who live up here is so much better for my mental and physical health, I think, that it forces me actually to narrow my focus and be really deliberate about what projects I say yes to. So it's, geographically it's changed the course of my business quite a bit. So we do less, but I think the things that we do are better. Bit of a roundabout answer, but I'll leave it at that.
No. It's actually really great. Like you said, there's artists from the city or city adjacent all over the place up here. That not everybody came up during the pandemic. I mean, there's been, the Hudson Valley's been an artistic community for a long time, but a lot of people have that tethered to the city. And I think a lot of people really wanted to start paying more attention to their happiness, right? It's all about balance, trying to find a better balance for your soul and for your creativity. And you're also doing, the other thing I wanted to say is like, you're kind of like living the dream that a lot of people have in a lot of ways, where you've grown a business to the point that you don't need to physically be there babysitting it every day. And you can kind of write your own ticket in some respects. And I think, and that's very much on the forefront of my mind as there's other things I'm working on to try and put myself in that type of position, or like, trade less time for money, or however you want to quantify it. But, on the flip side, I think a lot of people would probably be envious of the kind of position you've carved out for yourself. So it's really cool. I'm glad you're still around. I'm glad you're up here in the Hudson Valley. We don't know each other that well. And, as I was like just kind of prepping myself for this and making sure I had some talking points, the one thing that kept resonating with me is like, professionally, your work seems very performative, for lack of a better term. And you have a lot of different facets to what you do. On your site, it says you're a professional speaker, community facilitator, a storyteller, and an entrepreneur. And, we'll get more into kind of what all those look like. But I saw performance as like a focus, right? You do public speaking speaking events and engagements, and that seems very performative, just as the drunk yoga aspect, which we'll talk about. So like, was performance always a thing for you? Like where does if I'm correct, where does the love of like performing come from?
Yeah. So performance was always the thing. Interestingly, I think if you had asked me when I was a kid, maybe anywhere between the ages of 5 and 10, what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would say an actress, a gymnast, did gymnastics, an artist, and a philosopher. And this was before I knew what being a yoga teacher was. Um, and yeah, so performance was always the thing. There's nothing I ever loved more than performing and acting. But as I learned more, as you develop in your career, any artist, you start to niche down. And I started to really love solo performance art just as an art form. Something about, and that was before I knew what entrepreneurship was, something about being a single human being on a stage with nothing but ideas, a voice, a story, and then anything I could think of that I could also put on that stage with props, music, visuals that would help take people on an experience to a deeper sense of belonging with themselves and a relationship to the universe at large. Just something about that art form never ceased to fascinate me and challenge me. I love watching other solo performance artists do it. I became rather obsessed with artists like Anna Devere Smith and Lily Tomlin, who are sort of the OGs in that realm. And that's kind of what I honed in on, was being a monologuist. And then I auditioned for NYU Tisch School of the Arts for acting. It's a competitive school. The year I was accepted, I think the admission rate for the acting program at Tisch was 5%. And so
Wow.
I don't think my family thought I was going to get in. So they were like, yeah, go ahead, audition. That's fine. A, we can't afford it. B, she's not getting in. So fine, if you want to audition. And then it turns out I got in and with enough of a scholarship to make it feasible
Amazing.
for acting. Yeah. So then I just thought, well, for sure, it'll be conventional acting. I'm going to be a TV and film actress. And then I pursued that path quite seriously for about a decade. And I had my agents in New York. I was doing TV, film, and commercials. And then got myself out of bartending by becoming a yoga teacher for the day job. Things got a little complicated mid to late 20s when I started to feel like I needed to reconcile, like pick a path, basically. I really love wellness and teaching, wellness experiences and yoga because of the freedom it brought me, that entrepreneurship in me. This period of acting was long before COVID as well. So now you can do like self-tapes at home, and there's Hulu and HBO Max and every streaming service. And so those two things are important because before those, like streaming services and auditioning from home, you had to be in New York or LA, and you had to be available during pilot season. And so there was no, if I wanted to go spend my winter in Bali, that wasn't going to happen because I had to be in LA for pilot season. And I had to be in New York and available to go to an audition physically at the drop of a hat. I didn't love that. Yoga, I could kind of do whatever I wanted and write my own life story. And it still kind of felt like it scratched that performance bug in me wanting to be in front of people. And it felt like a one-woman show, right? I think my ego had to reconcile feeling like what it would mean success-wise or as an identity to let go of acting in the conventional way, because I'm sure that you can appreciate, you have this idea of what it means to be a success in your field, and to let go of it, especially I feel like in the acting world, the idea of failing as an actor or giving up on your craft is it holds so much weight about who you are as a person and your will to keep going. But at a certain point, I was no longer feeling happy playing femme fatale number 2 in whatever TV show, Lifetime movie, and like auditioning for Crest White Strip commercials. And I was enjoying this world of getting asked to speak about my ideas and my thoughts, and getting to make my own schedule, and getting to go teach a yoga retreat in Bali whenever I felt like it. And so that's when I started to think maybe I could create my own company that would allow me to perform. So back to your original question, where performance is at the forefront, because that's what I love and that's what gets me up in the morning, crafting solo performances that help bring people through an experience of belonging, quite specifically, that I can make my own schedule, my own money, and live wherever I wanted to. And so back to also the idea of choosing to move to Beacon, I carved out this life for myself very deliberately. I knew that I wanted to have freedom, financial freedom. I knew I wanted to have freedom to live wherever I wanted and still do the work that I wanted. So then I started to, like literally when I was 27, take a pen to a paper and start to connect the dots to figure out what is most important to me. Winning an Academy Award was less important to me than being able to go to Bali, for example, or have the financial freedom to live wherever and do whatever. So if that was at the forefront, then I started to think, okay, what kind of company could I create that would allow me to perform and have wellness be at the center of it and scale it in such a way that I'm not tied to a brick and mortar. So I thought of a few really bad ideas, and then cut to September of 2017, I walked into a bar and drunk yoga began, and that kind of checked off all the boxes. So yeah, again, to bring it back to your central question, I knew that performance always needed to be at the center because it's just who I am and what I do and the language I understand the best. So even at Drunk Yoga, I only hire performers to be my yoga teachers. And, I take them through this training program that is actually called the Performance of Yoga Teaching. But I wanted to do it in a way that I could be a successful entrepreneur and not feel like a starving artist, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. One big reason why I love kind of the format of this show, just being an open-ended conversation, is because stuff like this comes up, like unexpected things that I never planned to talk about seem to like come to the surface. And I love everything you said, mostly because I personally relate to it so much. It's like you have these ambitions and you have, your goals or what you think you're going to wind up doing for the rest of your life. And then one day you wake up and it's not that you don't want to do those things. It's just you start to like realize that taking care of taking care of yourself and just understanding what you value holds so much more weight. And it's, as a cinematographer, I would love to be like the next Roger Deakins shooting some big whatever movie, but I also don't want to lose my mind in the process. And as you know, working in like the Hollywood system, for lack of a better term, it's a grind. I mean, it's a grind that really you have to be cut from a certain cloth to like make it all the way through. And, without going too far into it, I love everything you just said about, really having this idea that, your independence and your time and your happiness was so much more important. And it's ultimately like worked out very well for you. So I know you mentioned Drunk Yoga, and it's such a big part of what you are about now. So can you give me, mostly because we've never really talked about it, give me a background on what it actually is? All I know about Drunk Yoga is it's this program you've developed, right? And without knowing much else, all I see is lots and lots of really good press about it. I know you published a book. Now I find that it's not just you, it's you also employ other yoga teachers to kind of facilitate this program and your business in your stead when you don't do it. And as someone who is of an entrepreneurial mind, all this is very like exciting to me. So like I want to like jump right in and find out more about it. Can you tell me like what Drunk Yoga is and how it started and what it's become?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a journey. So it really did start that night, September in 2017, when it's very serendipitous. I was just out with some friends. And truth be told, I don't really drink that much, maybe a glass of champagne in the holidays, that kind of thing. So I don't really have a relationship with bars or alcohol. And so my friends were visiting from somewhere. I met them at Burning Man. they were like, it was just a couple weeks after Burning Man, and they were like, "We're in the city, come up for a drink with us." And I said, "No, I have to teach yoga in the morning. I can't, sorry." And they said, come on, just one drink. And I said, "Okay, one drink." And then sure enough, several drinks later, it's 3 a.m, and we're at Gray Lady, which is the bar I actually used to bartend at a long time ago when I was 22, right out of college. And I don't enjoy bars. I don't like the nightlife very much. So I lasted like 3 months there, left a different job, and eventually become a yoga teacher. But I maintained, friendship with the owners. And one of them was there that night, and everyone was happy to see me. I was happy to see them. We just kind of like, me and my friends stumbled into Brick Lady, and it was serendipitous. And the owner said, "Oh my gosh, you're a yoga teacher now. You should teach me yoga. I can't even touch my toes." And then sure enough, Drew, he bent over, touched his toes, and sort of jokingly said, "I guess I can do it when I'm drunk." And then I sort of flirtatiously said, "Let's do drunk yoga." And then that was it. I said, "Wait a second, I have an idea." Because already, my ideas were simmering. I was really deep in the moment trying to figure out what is my company going to be? Like, what is my thought leadership platform? How can I get myself out of auditioning for Crest White strip commercials and getting up at 5 a.m. to teach yoga private clients and teach at gyms all day long? Like I was really at the height of that moment of trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I thought, wait a second, what if I turned yoga into a drinking game? I make yoga social. What better way to make yoga more fun and accessible to people who wouldn't otherwise try it than by taking it out of the places I don't want to do it anymore, and out of the dogma and out of this like workout zone, and just bring it into the entertainment world. Bring it into places where people already gather in celebration, like bars or hotels or even offices for corporate team building events. I had an idea, and so I asked the owner, "Wait, can I teach a yoga class with wine in hand in the bar?" And he said, "Sure." So I started the next week, and nobody came to my classes. I knew nothing about running a business. I knew nothing about marketing. I think I made a Facebook post. I called it drunk yoga. Everyone thought it was a joke for obvious reasons. It sounds ridiculous. Of course, the idea was never to get drunk and do yoga. It was a cheeky name for this sort of yoga drinking game that I made up. Keep in mind, my background was in experiential performance art. So I thought for sure everyone's going to understand this nuance. They didn't. Hate mail ensued. But, no one came to my class for about a month. I was just bad at marketing. And then I thought, you know what? I'll just give it one more week. And I called a journalist friend of mine who wrote for Gothamist. And I was like, "Listen, Rebecca, I've got an idea. It's called drunk yoga. Would your editor write about it? I could use a little press." And she's like, "Yeah, for sure. If it's called drunk yoga, absolutely." So she came with her sister, and I got one more friend to come for my birthday. This was now October 3rd, my birthday, in 2017. And I didn't even have enough people in the class to like do a whole class. I just said, "This is what I think I'm going to do. Like, this is the purpose behind it. I'm going to create this whole sort of immersive theatrical experience, but it takes place with the vehicle of a yoga class, but also there's a drink and there's games." And she wrote about it. And then long story short, it just went internationally viral immediately. I mean, right away, New York Post picked it up, International Business Times. In the next few weeks, I was on People TV, the talk show, CBS, 60-Second Docs, Insider Fitness, Glamour, Elle, Shape, Pop Sugar, Forbes, anything. I mean, just I was covered by everything. I got that book deal. I wrote a book. And so nobody came to my class. And then all of a sudden, the classes were sold out. I didn't even have an Eventbrite. I was like, "Come, pay cash, whatever."
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was it was unbelievable, but also very stressful because obviously people thought, I didn't have a website, I had nothing. They just heard drunk yoga and thought the worst. And so it was also a hard time because at that time, there wasn't anything like this. I was the pioneer in adding alcohol or any beverage of any kind to yoga in a way that was cheeky like this. So I got fired from like 3 yoga studios. People did not want to associate with drunk yoga girl. It was very controversial. So I had to make a choice in that moment. Also my acting agent was kind of on me because I was less available for auditions. So it was just like one big tumultuous moment where I had to decide, am I in with drunk yoga or am I out? Because if I was in, that meant I was going to not be allowed to teach at conventional yoga studios anymore, and my agent was going to drop me. And if I was out, I still had like one glimmer of a moment where I could have been like, "Hey guys, just kidding. It was a joke. Just relax, just kidding." And then just go back to teaching at Equinox all day long and auditioning again. But I made the decision that the only reason that I wouldn't do drunk yoga and wouldn't pursue it is for fear of what people would think of me, for fear of offending people, for fear of all of the what ifs. And I decided that that wasn't a good enough reason for me not to try. So there was a moment where I was sitting in Central Park and I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm the CEO of Drunk Yoga. Let's Google what CEO stands for. Do it. And great lady, it happened actually. My International Business Times called me and they were like, hey, are you the CEO of Drunk Yoga? And I was like, 1 second, Googling what CEO stands for. Sure, why not? And so after that, Gray Lady actually pretty much gave me their PR help to help me get going with a website and Eventbrite so people would stop calling the bar to ask how they could sign up for Drunk Yoga. I very quickly codified the experience to the best of my ability, put together some merch, got 2 more bars on board because I was scaling really quickly and people wanted more classes, and then just figured it out. And then how I scaled from there. To any entrepreneurs listening, event-based businesses are tough, and it's really great to have recurring revenue for obvious reasons. But I still needed to honor the fact that this is not a yoga class. People don't come to Drunk Yoga for yoga. They come because they're celebrating a birthday or doing something.
They come because it's fun, and yoga is usually a project, and this makes it fun.
I was making it an entertainment experience just through the vehicle of yoga, right? And so I figured out, I'll keep it short, but I just sort of figured out how to get into hotels, get hotels to pay me a monthly retainer to create really themed, really cool drunk yoga experiences. So now I was doing like Spa Sundays by Drunk Yoga. What do we call it? Drunk Broga by Drunk Yoga, Coffee Yoga, Espresso Yourself by Drunk Yoga. So now Drunk Yoga is the brand name. People knew that when they were doing a Drunk Yoga experience, it was just like a cool social wellness experience, but that allowed me to then branch off into different hotels and then scale that model. Basically, I was selling a package to hotels where they would pay me. I would send them a teacher every week to do something really fun and free for their guests. So it came from like their marketing budget. But then we would open up ticket sales to the public. So they were getting that press and that marketing as well. And that worked great. I was scaling now from New York to LA to Dallas, and Virgin Hotels in Dallas, and this is all in like 2 years, Virgin Hotels in Dallas bought exclusivity of my brand in February of 2020. And so everything just sort of fell apart with the hotel plan pretty quickly during COVID because the travel industry just had no more budget indefinitely. And so I had really intended on scaling this company and for the purpose of trying to sell it, just trying to figure out do as much as I can to make it as big as possible in that era between 2017 and 2020. And then during COVID, I was sort of forced to figure out, and this is really a blessing in disguise and brings us back to like this moment of scaling down and focusing on mental health. I had to figure out how to take this three-dimensional immersive entertainment yoga experience and make it still interactive two-dimensionally on Zoom. I had to figure out how I could take these drinking games and these icebreakers and storytelling mechanisms that work flawlessly in person and introduce them on Zoom in such a way that gets people to want to turn on their Zoom cameras. And so it was hard, but I figured it out and I created a different program, trained my teachers on how to teach a Zoom yoga class. And we actually did really well with that. The economy was still ripe for, team building, community engagement of all things. We had a pretty good year in 2020 and 2021. Doing pretty much just corporate team building, pre-recorded, just making yoga fun for teams. And as a result of that, I really learned a lot about community engagement in my research to try to figure out what is the essence of belonging, what makes people want to participate, want to turn on their Zoom cameras, what makes people want to answer an icebreaker question versus roll their eyes. And so I was really deep in studying like the science and sociology and the art behind community. What makes a community show up for themselves? What makes a participant want to be there? And so then I recognized that this system and these lessons apply to other arenas, and that leaders were really interested in learning these hacks as well about how to lead more engaging gatherings and how to spark belonging within their teams and communities. And so as drunk yoga this is something that did become hard moving to the Hudson Valley. It did become a little bit harder to scale drunk yoga without the retainer.
Yeah.
Cancel culture became a thing. So the term drunk yoga is tough because it's provocative and it hints at cultural appropriation. And it's just a tough conversation to continue to have without a lot of resources. And I was getting a little burnt out trying to continue to scale. I did get an offer from somebody, it was a wellness app, to purchase drunk yoga about a year ago. And I put a lot of time and energy and effort into that acquisition that never ended up going through for mostly economic reasons. And that's when I sort of made the decision to scale back drunk yoga as strictly this cool lifestyle brand that teaches community builders how to lead more engaging gatherings. The yoga experience, like as a pop-up or as a team building event, is still on the menu, but I'm no longer scaling drunk yoga as a yoga class. And it's more now, just this thought leadership platform for community builders to spark belonging. And that feels like the best fit because now I get to speak on this topic and lead immersive gatherings and I'm back to sort of performance art, as it were. But it's enough of a concept where if I wanted to, let's bring it back to Bali to have the full circle moment, if I wanted to do a yoga retreat, to make yoga fun and accessible in Bali, I could do that still. So I still have the freedom, but now without the sort of the handcuffs of feeling like the only way out is through this major acquisition. So I scaled it up, scaled it back, and here we are.
That is quite the story. I feel like I just went on a roller coaster with you. Wow. I have a bunch I want to unpack with that. Okay. So my initial question when we started down this road of drunk yoga was going to be, well, how did you build an audience, right? But it seems like you really didn't have that problem at the outset. It's the audience building was just built in by default with this like kind of freak occurrence where your business just blew up essentially overnight, right? You gave one journalist a preview of what you thought it could be, and then you had to like learn in reverse how to become an entrepreneur because it just fell in your lap, which is incredibly unique. I've never really heard that story before. Usually it's like a slow build. So that part's awesome. I think the question now, or before I get into a question, one thing you did mention is kind of that turning point, right? You had to pick a direction. On one hand, you have this thing that's gotten a lot of attention very, very fast and has a lot of potential. And then on the other hand, you have these things that you've worked really hard to build and sank in basically 10 years of your life trying to build an acting career and doing that grind. And it's a very clear demarcation. And what you said that really stuck out to me was fear. And I think fear is the biggest barrier for most people, myself included. And it's like, how am I going to be perceived? If this is perceived in the incorrect way, how am I going to dig out from underneath that? And the fact that you were able to push that aside and make the right decision for you down here in your heart and your gut, I think is really the biggest decision you could have possibly made, and probably the hardest one too, whether you knew it or not. So I think it's a really great example of what being able to not get over your fear, but just push it aside for a moment, an important moment, is like how much pushing that fear aside at the right time can do for you and do for your trajectory. The other thing that I get really like jazzed up about is the fact that you're this creative person just like me, but I'm really into like entrepreneurship, like just the possibilities, right? All the possibilities that go along with that. And you had to learn very quickly, like how to scale and get these tools in your toolbox of how to do this. And it seems like you kind of fit into that pretty well. I mean, you just told me how you were, trying to get or got hotels on a retainer, and you're, scaling with all these instructors and things that like take a lot of time for a lot of people who are trying to start their own business to get comfortable with and understand. So even though you had to learn a lot really quickly, I feel like, maybe the entrepreneurial hat is a good fit for you. I guess my question at the end of all of this is, how has it been learning to deal with having this thing that was basically like close to getting acquired to intentionally scaling it back and kind of like pulling it down from this like high point where, I don't know, who knows how much money you could have made as a business owner from getting it acquired, to now not pushing so hard and trying to scale it back purposefully for the time being. What was that adjustment like for you? And did you have all your eggs in that one basket of it's drunk yoga or nothing, or were you starting to like spin off other streams of revenue or other business ideas, things like that?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a lot. I know I just like unwound a bunch of stuff. So
No, I like the question. It was hard. It was like a breakup. It was like a breakup to come to that moment of realization. And it definitely mirrored how I felt about confronting myself in giving up conventional yoga and conventional acting, and just trusting that the no set path ahead of me was, you don't know if it's going to work out. You just have to trust yourself and trust. I just needed to trust that wherever this journey took me, and this is back when I decided to go for drunk yoga 100%. I didn't know if it was going to work out. I just decided to trust myself and made the goal, my personal goal, be at the end of this journey, I just want to know that I did my best. I don't want to have any regrets about not working hard enough and knowing that I did my best. So I feel like I accomplished that. And so it was hard to have any regrets, because I don't think, with the knowledge I had and in the middle of a pandemic, like, I don't think there's really anything I could have done, that was any better or any worse. So I guess when I got to the moment of deciding to let go of the idea of scaling and selling, because I did have to make the decision, because I never had capital. I decided not to raise money. I didn't have any investors. And I was tired. I was tired of, like, there's a chicken and egg situation when you're an entrepreneur scaling a business, where you wear all of the hats and you're constantly like, you're overworking because you can't quite pay enough to get like that full-time person to take a lot of stuff off your plate so that you can do what it is that you actually want to do. You're kind of just doing everything at the detriment of yourself. And, so some entrepreneurs can stay there forever. Some, can get themselves out of that in a year. I did, but then the pandemic happened. And so I was kind of back running around with the chicken with my head cut off. So after the acquisition didn't go through, I was devastated. It felt like a breakup. I cried a lot. I was really devastated. I really thought that this was my moment. In my mind, probably from a place of ego, I had this fear of being a perceived failure, walking away from a conventional acting career. I had this idea that the only way to be a successful entrepreneur is to sell, because that was the story I was given. That's sort of the story of, America is, growth is success. Being acquired is success. Like, yeah. And so in this culture, we don't equate success with happiness.
Well, there's so many, just as a side note, think about how many like Silicon Valley startups exist purely because they're like, we have a great idea that we can sell for
selling
8 figures to somebody,
It's about
That's
that
the whole
acquisition.
goal.
Yeah. And so, but in order for me, I guess my point was, I recognized that if I wanted to sell and go find another buyer, I could have. There was a moment there where I had prepped to sell. I put money and time into it. I had this thing that could be sold. It's a different day job. Like, that job, running a company that's meant to scale and sell, is a different job than the one that I wanted, which is being a speaker and a thought leader and a performance artist, a facilitator, teaching. So running an events-based business was not the job I wanted. It's just the job that ended up happening for me as I tried to scale this company. And who knows, it could have been years before I sold. And once again, I sat myself down, this time on a rock and beacon, and really had an honest conversation with myself about what is what do I value in this moment? Because if I really want to sell drunk yoga, if I do, then there's a lot of risk here. The thing on the table now that I'm risking is, potentially 2-3 more years of no sleep, putting my company over relationships, and maybe the acquisition, maybe I won't even, depending on where the culture and society and economy is, I may not even get a good deal out of it. So what, to break even over, a company that people don't even really like, nobody cares. They care about, everyone's looking at themselves in their own lane. Like I recognized if I decide to dissolve that idea, that aspect of drunk yoga, there's an exhausted piece of you as an entrepreneur who thinks everyone's going to think she's a failure. Everyone's going to look at me. Everyone's going to. And then, the truth is no one cares. The truth is everyone will be like, oh, remember that cool thing, like that cool drunk yoga thing that you did that one time? And so I guess what mattered to me, why I decided to make the decision to not pursue scaling and selling, was just that gut feeling of recognizing, you know what, I just don't want to. I don't want to do it anymore. It felt like when I thought of getting up in the morning and continuing to put my energy and effort into that work, it felt like I kept hitting a wall. Like it was just very energetic and physical. Like I felt like one big full body no. And when I thought, okay, well, what other resources do I have right now that could continue to allow me to make money doing what I love, I could start to see a way in which drunk yoga didn't have to die. It just needed to, change. And so then I spent that was like last July. I probably spent the next 5 months, like pen to paper again, thinking about what life do I want to create for myself that'll make me happy, make me money, let me prioritize what's important to me, which at this point in my life is relationships, time in nature, and then back to performance. I think I always thought, this is the last thing I'll say to this question. I had this idea that if I'm really honest, I never really wanted to be like a TV and film actress. I thought, well, okay, if that's the way that I needed to make money in order to be a solo performance artist, then I'll do that. And when I make enough money, I'll quit and then I'll just be a solo performance artist. I had in my mind, I always just wanted to be a solo performance artist. And I created the story in which I had to jump through hoops to try to make money in a different way so that I could live in the Hudson Valley and be a solo performance artist. And then that acting and TV and film acting and commercial acting sort of just turned into drunk yoga. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just build it and build it and build it. And then one day I'll sell it. And then I'll have enough money so that I can just be in the Hudson Valley and be a solo performance artist. And I kept creating these roadblocks. And that was part of that decision too. I was like, at what point will I allow myself to just be happy? At what point will I just choose happiness and stop creating all these problems for myself that aren't really my stories to begin with? These aren't my values. These are America's values, right? This idea that we're a success and valuable to society if we sell our companies rather than just choose to dissolve them. And so I thought, could I just be in the Hudson Valley and be a solo performance artist right now? And the answer is absolutely yes. So I just turned drunk yoga into a solo performance art piece. And now I speak on it and teach other leaders how to do the same. And now that was the big decision. And the truth is, it hurt. It felt like a breakup. I cried a lot. It's also expensive to dissolve an LLC. It's not just like I had to invest more money to dissolve the LLC. And I still have the trademark, to clarify. I still have the trademark, but I dissolved the LLC for expense reasons. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're like, oh, that's cool. What do you do now? And now I can just say,
right,
solo performance artist in the Hudson Valley. So
right. So it's really interesting, the barriers that we create for ourselves. It has to be like yesterday. I saw some I don't know, it was like some illustration, some meme thing where it was like a circle with a line through like this very small slice of it. And the bigger part of the circle was saying something like, how much you think everybody cares.
Yeah.
And then the smaller slice was like how much anybody actually cares.
Yeah.
And it's totally true. It's just an example of how like we're our own worst enemy. And especially being in a performative profession for so long, or something that's like performance adjacent, like me in filmmaking or whatever. It's like you're kind of trained into this system of like, oh, people are actually going to give a shit. Like you're putting yourself out there and assuming that everybody cares, when in reality, nobody really does, which is very freeing once you realize that. So now, you did wind up being a solo performer in the Hudson Valley, one way or the other. It all worked itself out. And so now that you're doing it as kind of like a solo performance piece and, kind of weaving that in with professional speaking engagements and things like that, what are these new aspects that you're starting to like push for yourself? What does that look like?
And, I wish I had all the answers to that question. This is something I'm still sort of working through. The thing that kind of still keeps me up at night is something that I think about that I wish I didn't, is I feel like I just want to have the one thing, like one important thing that I do. I don't love being a multipreneur. I really would just like to have one thing that I do really well, my craft. And I have this, I am in a moment where I'm known for yoga, speaking, drunk yoga. I still do some voiceover. I still do, I still have my one-woman shows that, people do know me for. And right now it still kind of feels like 6 different things. And so I'm still in the carving process, the sculpting process of like, what would it look like if I just did one thing? And, or do I just need to get over myself? It's funny, the name of my keynote is The Art of Getting Over Yourself. And just recognize that, a lot of people do a lot of things. So just reconciling, that I am a community engagement consultant, solo performer, and speaker, or just figuring out how to reconcile all of that. But I guess where I am now is still etching away at all of those things and trying not to let it keep me paralyzed. So I am a paid speaker. I am, I give talks for conferences. We do still have some drunk yoga pop-ups that happen in LA and Dallas and New York City. And so that's sort of like still staying warm and like the possibilities of what drunk yoga could be. We still do some corporate team building. I still have teachers who work for me. I do take on consulting, clients to help them build community. And I'm still spending weekends like working on my next theatrical one-woman show. In an ideal world, Drew, I could figure out how to, and I probably will, figure out how to make, keynote speaking the one-woman show.
Right.
Or, make my one-woman shows, that I want to tour and write books about, acts of wellness education. I would like to, just for the sake of being economical with my time here on this earth, figure out a way to create just like one container in which all of the things that are important to me can be expressed. I'm getting closer. I'll let you know when I've nailed it down.
Please do. Yeah.
I do want to speak a little bit, Drew, to something that you said many, many minutes ago about building an audience.
Many minutes ago. Yeah, please.
An audience kind of came to me for drunk yoga for sure. And it was stressful because the press came to me and then an audience grew from there, and it wasn't my audience. It was the New York Post audience. It was the International Business Times and Ellen Clay. It was their audience, and then they knew about what I was doing, but depending on what they wrote about me in their article, because you cannot control the press. So, some wrote really great things, some wrote not so great things about drunk yoga. But now they were just sort of, I had this audience, of people who were just watching, not necessarily fans or, people who believed in me or were in it for the journey. And then there were people who I'd known my entire life who all of a sudden were coming out of the woodworks and saying, oh, I know her. And hey, do you want to get coffee now? Like, that 15 minutes of fame. And that was stressful too, because it felt like I had all of these eyeballs all at once and I better not fuck it up. And the truth is, it comes in waves. So people were looking at me and then they got distracted and looked, to the next big thing and the next big thing. And eventually, my core audience faded a little bit, but the audience that never did and the audience that is sustainable to this day is the audience that is in it for the journey. And when I say that, I mean, I think the best way to build an audience is to just be really honest and transparent about who you are, why you are, where you're going, and allow your audience to be a part of the whole journey, not just the end product, not just the thing that you're selling on Instagram, but the people who are, invested in the highs and the lows, we care about being taken on a well-planned journey, like as just human beings. That's why we love storytelling so much.
Of course.
Being immersed in, a journey and being taken from beginning, middle to end. So if anyone is really trying to build an audience around a brand or an idea or a company, as scary as it is, I recommend being vulnerable as the human behind it. So they're going to follow your product and your company if they follow you. And they're going to follow you because they can relate to you, that they care about you, because you've been vulnerable enough to let them in on your life's journey and your story. I think that's the most sustainable and the best way to build an audience, and the ones that are going to have your back in the end, not just because you got a New York Post article.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I've been doing a lot of reading lately about like email lists and newsletters and things like that for some reason. And it's like the concept keeps coming up, which I totally agree with and speaks to your point. Build a list or build an audience or whatever you want that word to be of 1,000 true fans instead of 10,000 browsers, people who are just like watching from the outside and aren't actually engaged. Like there's so much more value on both sides of the table when that's the case. So I think that goes hand in hand kind of with what you're speaking about. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to know what you're up to next. I mean, you did say you're working on a one-woman show. Like what's next in the cards for Eli Walker?
I am working on a one-woman show called Kill the Buddha, which I hope to produce here in the next 12 months in between New York City and the Hudson Valley. So stay tuned for that. I am touring, The Art of Getting Over Yourself through different conferences. That's my keynote. And one of the things that people could participate on that journey is I'm going to be holding 2 monthly mixers, one in the Hudson Valley and one in New York City, specifically for community builders. So it'll be a taste of The Art of Getting Over Yourself, my facilitated talk, plus games and curated networking. And I'm really niching down these days specifically for people who identify as facilitators, leaders, or community builders to help them lead more engaging gatherings. So 2 free monthly events, one here in Beacon and one in Manhattan. So it's The Art of Getting Over Yourself, but sort of in community builder mixer networking mode. And next month, I will be launching an online membership called The Uplift. And again, specifically for community builders, that'll have some yoga involved. So it'll be more about helping, less about helping leaders cultivate belonging with their people. And this is specifically to help leaders and community builders cultivate belonging with themselves, to equip them with a more profound tools to help them feel a more profound sense of belonging with themselves and their relationship to the universe, just so they can have a language of belonging and know what it feels like before they try to impose it on their people. So that's a monthly membership called The Uplift. And there's still drunk yoga in New York City every Saturday. So if you want to pop into that, that's a thing you can do too.
That's awesome. To kind of close it out, I just had something pop into my head where, to take it back a minute, you said, being a multipreneur was never a job you wanted. It's just what landed in your lap. But I will counter that with saying, I think all the success and experiences and everything that's brought you to this moment, in my opinion, has to do with the fact that you continually follow your passion. Even if it takes a little bit of time, you continually follow what it is that gets you out of bed in the morning. And in any configuration, whatever you want to call it, it's like you still have a passion for performance and you still have a certain value that you take with you. And that's changed what it looks like over time, but you've really stuck to your guns, in my opinion, in this little conversation. So I give you a lot of credit.
Oh, thank you.
So if people want to find out more about you, where can they find you online?
Eli Walker Stories on Instagram, and Eli Walker Stories is the website as well. So EliWalkerStories.com and Eli Walker Stories on Instagram. And speaking of newsletters, that'd be a great place to sign up for my weekly newsletter specifically for community builders. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. You and I are going to say a proper goodbye after we're done recording, but we're going to say bye to the audience right now. So thanks so much for tuning in. And I'll put links to all of Eli's stuff in the show notes.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Eli.
you so much.
All right, there you go. That was my interview with Eli Walker. You can find her online at eliwalkerstories.com or on Instagram at Eli Walker Stories. Both the same, super easy to find. Hope you really enjoyed the conversation. If you want to find out more about this show, you can go to nosetpath.com or you can find us on Instagram at nosetpathpodcast. And if you want to learn more about me, your host, Drew English, you can head to drewenglish.com or Instagram at drewenglish with 2 H's at the end. If you head to the website, I also have links to my Twitter and LinkedIn there as well. Thank you again so much for being here. I always appreciate it. I have a lot of great guests lined up for the future, so please keep coming back. We'll see you soon.